What's up, guys? David here with TrustThaThrust, Army aviator turned airline pilot. And just like you, when I first started getting into a bike, I thought stepping onto it would be super easy process. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. This is everything I wish I knew before I started riding, so you don't have to learn the hard way. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Let's get to it. I didn't know there was such a huge difference between a dealership versus going private. Dealerships might cost a little bit more, but you're paying for that reliability, that peace of mind, and sometimes way less drama than you'd expect. So let's be real. When you get your first bike as a new rider, there's a high probability that you're gonna drop your first bike. That's why buying used that already has a little bit of scratches here and there, probably not gonna be a big deal to you compared to buying a new bike at a dealership. So you go to a dealership, you're gonna get a new bike, you're gonna have that new bike price tag. And one of the biggest problems I had after the price was the break-in period that you're gonna have to do on that new bike. Most bikes are about 500 miles where you have to keep them under a certain RPM to break in that engine. And it's really hard to tell even somebody at my age, let alone younger, yeah, you can't go over 6,000 RPMs on this bike until 500 miles. It's not gonna happen. But then you go to the used bikes. So the used bikes, you know, it's Pandora's box. You really don't know what you're gonna get. It could be an extremely good used bike. Hopefully the guy or girl took care of it. It could be a stolen bike, to be totally honest. That, you know, if you don't have the know-how on what to look for, you could buy this bike and then worst case scenario gets taken away. Or you could buy this bike that's used and it has all types of problems in it that you just don't know what to look for because you're new to bikes. And if you didn't bring a mechanic friend that also knows bikes, you could just be having a big old paperweight. So what I decided to go for was a used bike at a dealership. So when I got my ZX4RR, it was a 2023 and it was at a Yamaha Kawasaki dealership, just used. And I didn't have to worry about dropping it much because it was a used bike. It wasn't brand new. I wasn't gonna get into my feelings about dropping my brand new bike because it was a used bike. These things happen. And that's one of the good perks of having a used bike off of Facebook Marketplace. We can get these all day from $3,000 all the way up to $10,000, $13,000, depending on what bike you want. But you know, that is one of the perks of used bikes because there's a high probability that you are gonna drop it. So if you drop a used bike that you paid $5,000 for, $3,000 to $5,000 for, you're not gonna be too upset. But if you go out and you buy some Panigale V4S and you drop that 20 grand bike, you're gonna feel it a little bit. With me, my bike was a little bit more expensive, so I'm still on that cusp of, I hope I don't drop it, but that's why I got some of the protection gear on the bike that we'll talk about later. Then there's the insurance. Yeah, a 600cc might look good in that showroom, but once you get to that insurance bill, it's gonna hit a little bit harder than that throttle of it when it comes to how much you're gonna have to pay per month on that bad boy. So I thought getting myself a little Kawasaki Ninja ZX4RR is a 400. Insurance might be $265 for the entire year. I was super happy. I bought the bike, never looked at insurance, never looked at it. I got it home and I was like, oh yeah, it's time to get insurance on it. I found out it was $265 for the month. Every single month is $265 because even though it's a 400, that RR, they consider it a super sport. So they put super sport insurance on it. Now I could be incorrect. You know, I'm not an insurance company. I don't know exactly why, but when I talked to them, that's the explanation they tried to give me, was that because it not being a 400 and instead of it being a ZX4RR, that they considered it a super sport, so they put super sport motorcycle insurance on it. And because of me having zero experience and, you know, an age of 32 and a whole bunch of other factors that I don't know and I'm not gonna get into this video, that is why the insurance costs so much. So make sure before you sign on that dotted line, I ended up going with Geico, but you have Progressive, you have Geico, everybody has motorcycle insurance. There's ones that are specific for motorcycles that I'd say do a little bit more research on there. What power do you wanna get for your first bike? I was stuck between the 400 and the 600 trying to figure out which would be best for me. I fell in love with the 636. I, to this day, still think it's a great platform. Do I think it would be a great platform for me learning out? Absolutely not. I would have gotten about 2 months into being confident with that thing, and then I would have hurt myself. Getting my 400, and I can go through that and rev through it like it's nothing. And it took me about maybe a month to build my confidence to be able to just fully go through the rev range and not be afraid of the bike and not be scared that it's gonna hurt me and whatnot. And I highly recommend going on a 400. I would say stick with the 400. If you're really itching for it, like, you know, some people say you can grow into a 600. You can try it. It's safer than a 1000 series, but I think you're gonna become a way better rider starting on that 400 and really learning your bike and then stepping up to a 600. Also, look deep inside of you and choose which bike fits you. Each bike has its different pros and cons. I ride a sport bike right now. I absolutely love it. There's nothing more fun than getting down, getting low, and going through the twisties and having a great time. So the next are the cruisers. I did like the cruiser when it came to the MSF course. They were super comfy. You flat foot most of them. It's a very chill, nice ride. Can they go super fast? Absolutely. You have a lot of these Harley boys out there that have stage 4 of their bikes and they're whooping me. They're whooping some of these 600s and keeping up with the 1000s. The bike that I'm really starting to get interested in, especially on these streets, are the naked bikes. I am really loving the naked bikes. Depending on what you get, they're keeping up with some of these 1000 series, these 1000cc bikes. They are super comfortable to ride. They have very streetable power where you don't have to just rev through it to get it. Like, I personally have been looking at the Triumph Street Triple RS as my next bike after this. I won't say after, I'm going to keep my Kawasaki and possibly get it track oriented and make the Triumph my everyday street missile, because it's such a good bike. It's a 765, I think, and it's has no problem keeping up with anything. On the road, on the track, it just does what it needs to do. So a lot of these newer bikes from the dealership and on some of these used bikes all have rider modes that they're there to help you in certain circumstances. Don't get over reliant on them. Learn your bike, how it wants to react and how it's going to react, and use those ride modes as the situation dictates, and don't get too reliant on such things as like the rain mode. So one of my biggest training wheels I had when I first started riding was the rain mode that was on my ZX4RR. It really was unbeneficial for me to get super reliant on it, and luckily, with watching YouTube videos and talking to all the people in the community, I got more and more confident with taking away those controls to seeing what my bike really wants to do. And it's gonna scare you, you know? when you're too high up of a range and you decide to downshift and you lock up that rear tire, it's gonna scare you. But you know, that's what's building that skill on what you need to be doing correctly and what you're doing incorrectly. And it teaches you how to correctly ride your bike. If there's one thing I learned, it's that riding isn't just about the machine, it's about the mindset. Don't get caught up in keeping up with your friends, buying the newest bike, buying the fastest bike. Make sure you're in the right mindset of what you can actually handle before you sign on that dotted line. Be smart about will you buy, what you buy, and what you're really ready for when you make a commitment to getting a bike. Whether you're on a 400, 600, or 1000cc, it all comes down to confidence, competence, and control of the bike. Go ahead and hit that like button. Drop a comment on what you wish you knew you had known before you started riding. Subscribe so we can keep this community growing together. And remember, ride fast, lean low, trust the thrust.